I always thought my silence made me weak. I was the quiet one in the marriage. The man who didn't complain. The husband who worked, paid bills, picked up, saying things she hadn't said to me in years. But she wasn't talking to me. I looked at her. She froze. My son stared at his plate. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't flip the table or demand answers. I stood up, took the dishes to the sink, and washed them. That's the night I decided to burn her world down. Not with fists. Not with anger. But with everything she didn't know I had. It was already too late. I wasn't always the kind of man who planned revenge. I used to believe in second chances. In talking things out. In giving the benefit of the doubt. I thought love meant patience. That silence was strength. That showing up every day, even when it was hard, was enough. I married young. She was the kind of woman who lit up every room. Talkative, energetic, the life of the party. I was the opposite. Quiet, reserved. But she said she loved that about me. "You calm me down," she used to whisper after long days. We weren't rich, but we made it work. I took on more hours, picked up freelance jobs, stayed late when needed. It wasn't glamorous, but I was proud of the life we built. A small home, a decent car, a son who smiled like his mother and listened like me. I thought we were okay, but sometimes you don't see the cracks until you're already falling through them. It started with little things. She used to send me funny texts during the day. Little memes, inside jokes. Then they stopped. She used to ask me if I'd eaten or if I needed anything. Then she stopped. At first, I thought she was just tired. Life can wear people down, right? But then she started going out more. Book club, yoga class, dinner with an old friend. Always just after I got home. She'd do her makeup before leaving. Perfume. I hadn't smelled on her in months. And she wouldn't come back until after our son was asleep. Still, I said nothing. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband, the controlling man. But I wasn't the only one who noticed. Our son, quiet like me, started closing his door more often. He stopped talking at dinner, stopped looking her in the eye. One night, I found him sitting in the garage alone. "Everything okay, buddy?" I asked. He nodded. "Just thinking," he said. I didn't push him. He was always a thoughtful kid. But something in the way he said it made my stomach twist. Like he was thinking about something he wasn't supposed to know. Something too big for a teenage heart to hold. I didn't know it yet, but my son was already carrying the weight I couldn't see. And what he'd do next would change everything. The thing about quiet kids, they don't scream. They observe. My son never once said the words, "Mum's cheating," but he didn't have to. One morning, I noticed his phone was missing from the charging station. Thought maybe he left it in his backpack. But later that night, I saw him sneak out to the backyard. Just standing there, holding the phone up toward the dining room window. When I opened the door, he turned fast. "Everything okay?" I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, just texting a friend." But he wasn't. He was filming, and in the reflection of the glass, I saw her, my wife, laughing into the phone, playing with her hair the way she used to when we were dating. She only did that when she liked someone. My throat went dry. I closed the door without saying a word. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. She was out again. Same book club. But this time, she came home with a scarf I'd never seen. Bright red, still had a tag tucked inside the hem. I asked where she got it. "Oh," she blinked. "Trish gave it to me. For my birthday." Her birthday was 3 months ago. Still, I smiled. Kissed her on the cheek. She flinched. That's when I knew. She wasn't afraid of being caught. She was afraid I already knew. The next night, I saw my son's phone unlocked on the counter. A video paused on the screen. I didn't mean to pry. I really didn't. But something inside me, the part that had stayed silent too long, told me to look. I pressed play. The angle was shaky, but clear. My wife, stepping out of a car. Not ours. A man in the driver's seat. His hand touched hers for just a second too long. She smiled. Then she kissed him. Not a friendly kiss. And not just once. She did it like she'd done it before. Like she wanted to again.
My son had caught it all.
And he never told me. Because he didn't want to hurt me. That hurt the most. That night felt like any other. Chicken, rice, salad. Same chairs, same table. Same woman pretending nothing was wrong. She was scrolling through her phone as she chewed. I was sipping water. My son, he was quiet, staring at his plate like it held secrets. Then he looked up, just once. His eyes met mine. And I knew something was about to happen. He reached into his hoodie pocket, slowly, calmly, and placed his phone on the table. Face up. My wife looked at it. "What's that for?" she asked. Lightly, playfully, but there was a tremble in her voice. My son didn't say a word. He just pressed play. Her voice filled the room. Not the version we heard every day. This was softer, sweeter. A woman flirting, whispering, "You make me feel alive again. I wish I could spend every night with you." My wife froze. She knew the words. She knew the voice. And worst of all, she knew there was more. The clip ended. Silence. My fork was still in my hand. My heart was somewhere else. She looked at me, her face pale. "I can explain," she whispered. I didn't respond. I stood up, took the plates to the sink, washed them, every motion slow, precise, like I was grounding myself. My son got up too. He left the phone on the table. I heard her crying behind me. I didn't turn around, because if I did, I might have said things I'd regret. I finished the dishes, wiped the counter, and walked past her like she wasn't there. That night, I slept in my son's room, not because I needed space, but because I needed peace. And in that small bed, surrounded by comic books and old posters, I made a decision. I would not yell. I would not fight. I would not beg. I would become everything she never saw coming. Every hour I had sacrificed, every dollar I had earned, every asset, document, password.
I was going to turn it all into one thing.
A plan. After that dinner, things didn't explode. They simply. She didn't sleep in our bedroom anymore. I didn't ask her to. We spoke only when necessary. Our son moved like a ghost between us. She tried once, just once, to talk to me. "It was a mistake," she whispered one morning as I made coffee.
I didn't even turn around.
Because I knew something she didn't. While she was building secrets, I was building structure. Years ago, when we got married, I had insisted we put everything in both our names. Just in case, I had said. She thought I meant protection. I meant foresight. The house? Mine before we met. The joint account. I set up alerts for every transaction. The savings account. In a separate bank she didn't even know about. And the funny thing about being boring, people forget how much power you quietly hold. She didn't realize I had watched every change in her spending. New heels, expensive wine, GERS trips that didn't match flight receipts. She thought she was clever. I thought she was desperate. That week, I changed the locks on the basement office. It was where I kept old documents, passcodes, backup drives. She never noticed. She stopped asking questions. She was too busy pretending. Meanwhile, I was collecting, not just evidence, but clarity. I found receipts for hotel bookings under her name. 2-night stays, out of town. I took photos, made copies, scanned everything. Not for court, not yet, for my son. So one day, when he's grown and looking at us speak louder than any words ever could. That Friday, I visited my lawyer. "I'm not filing yet," I told her, "but I want to know my options." We talked for an hour. Assets, custody, documentation. "Do you have proof?" she asked. I pulled out a flash drive. "Plenty." She looked at me, not with pity, but with something close to respect. "When you're ready," she said, "you won't need to say much." That night, I got home to find her in the kitchen. "We should talk," she said. I nodded. We should, but I didn't. Not yet, because sometimes the silence says everything, and hers was finally starting to crack. Days blurred into each other like smudged ink on wet paper. She still tried to play normal, making pancakes one morning. She even hummed. I watched from the hallway, the same melody she used to hum when we first moved in. Back when love was fresh. Back when betrayal with anger, with intention. As I hung up, my wife stepped into the room. "Everything okay?" Her voice tried to sound casual. I turned, smiled gently. Everything's finally starting to make sense. And just like that, I saw it in her eyes. The first flicker of fear. I didn't serve the papers at home. I sent them to her office, in a crisp envelope, with a sticky note on top. "You left first. No lawyer bombshells. No court drama. Just clarity." She called me 5 minutes later. I didn't pick up. She called again, then texted, "You can't just do this without talking." I stared at the screen. The woman who spent months lying, hiding, covering, suddenly wanted a conversation. I waited an hour, then replied, "We had hundreds, you just weren't listening." That evening, she came home pale. The front door slammed harder than usual. "What the hell is this?" she asked, holding the envelope like it was radioactive. "It's peace," I said. "You can either accept it or fight it, but you can't undo it." Her voice trembled. "This will destroy our family." I looked her dead in the eye. "You already did that. I'm just documenting it." She stormed out. My son came downstairs minutes later.
Is she okay?
I paused. "No, but that's not your job to fix." He nodded slowly, then asked, "What happens now?" I smiled, not because it was funny, but because it was finally clear. Now, we rebuild, not a marriage, a life. The next few days were quiet. She didn't speak to me, unless forced. But her silence wasn't power anymore. It was panic. I heard her pacing late at night. Phone calls with hushed voices. Probably trying to lawyer up, trying to salvage whatever she hadn't already lost. But it was too late. I had backups, documents, financial logs, timeline of infidelity, even emotional testimonies. Not to humiliate her, but to protect myself. I wasn't taking her down. I was taking myself back. The night before the hearing, I wrote my son a letter. Nothing dramatic, just truths. About love. About choice. About what a man does when everything collapses and he still has to stand.
I didn't give it to him yet.
But I folded it and placed it in the fire-safe box, alongside the photo of our family, and the broken promise that said forever. The next morning, I put on my grey suit, tied the same blue tie I wore to our wedding, walked down the same hallway. But this time, I wasn't walking toward her. I was walking away, on my own terms. No noise, no war, just liberation. The courtroom was quiet. No shouting, no gavel slams, just signatures. Paper traded for freedom. She sat on the other side, arms crossed, lips pursed. I didn't look at her much. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't feel anything at all, and that in itself was louder than rage. The judge read out the terms. Custody, joint, but primary residence with me. Property, already split, clean and fair. Alimony, none. She flinched. Her lawyer whispered something. She didn't argue, just nodded. It was over. 15 years of marriage, reduced to initials and court seals. I walked out first. The sky outside was cloudy, humid, but I felt light, like someone had quietly removed chains from my ribs. That night, I sat across from my son at the kitchen table. We didn't say much. He played with the edge of his sandwich. "Is it weird now?" he asked. I shook my head. "Different, not weird." He looked up. "I'm glad you're still here." That hit harder than the divorce. Because through all of this, I realized the fight wasn't about saving a marriage. It was about saving myself. For him. Later that weekend, I opened the fireproof box, took out the letter I'd written him, and handed it over. He read it silently. No tears. Just a long pause before he said, "You're the strongest man I know." I laughed gently. Not strong, just tired of being broken. A few days passed. I saw her once at the grocery store. She looked small, not in size, but in presence. Her usual confidence replaced with hesitance. She walked past without making eye contact. I didn't stop her.
I didn't need
And her. But he'd erased her face, not out of anger, just a... "I think I'm ready to let it go," he said. I took the paper gently. So am I. That night, I burned the drawing in the fireplace. Not in rage, in release. I didn't need revenge anymore, because the real revenge is becoming a man they can never manipulate again. A man who doesn't chase apologies. A father who leads by showing what self-respect looks like. A heart that's scarred, but still beating. Months later, I ran into him, the man from the picture, at a gas station. He looked thinner, ashamed, tried to avoid eye contact. I walked right past him. No words, no stares, just the sound of my car door closing. And as I drove away, I realized something. The final chapter wasn't about her or him. It was about me, finally writing the story on my own terms.